I got bored with top form halfway through the series, so let's talk about it. We should honestly have a series of good show, bad adaptation at this point, like some kind of compilation to be honest. Big disclaimer, I'm a big fan of the manga and the anime, so I came with expectations. As someone who at some point lived and breathed this show and made it their whole personality, as much as I would like to not compare top form to the source material, it will be really hard. By the way, my name is Nemu. I do commentaries, reviews of a lot of BL shows. So if that's something that you would like to see, please consider subscribing. It's my goal to reach 500 subscribers before the end of the year. Like this video and share it. Thank you so much. I finally remember to do an intro. Anyways, moving on. When the series started, I was so hyping it up. I was posting about it on Blue Sky every week that a new episode comes out. You wouldn't even believe. I didn't even care that Jin is so different from Junta. They're basically different people. The chemistry between Smart and Boom's amazing acting is what sold this show for me and eventually what gave me the motivation to finish it up. Somewhere between episode 6 and episode 7, I just could not care, but that's more of a preference issue than anything else, I think. Episode 7 just did not land for me, and after that, I just feel indifferent. I didn't even finish the show until last week or this week, I think. It wasn't even because the story itself was bad. It's the classic adaptation stumble. When you make significant changes to the characters, in this case, they cleaned up Junta. You have to rework the surrounding narrative to match. You can't just lift scenes from the original and expect them to hit the same way when the emotional context is completely different. They change Jin so much from Junta that the entire emotional beats just don't fit him anymore. Scenes that originally made sense because of Junta's obsessive, toxic tendencies now come off completely flat. And a couple of these scenes unfortunately happened in episode 7. These scenes that are made for Junta's strong, forward, and bordering on abusive personality are now being performed by this soft, bland version who's supposed to be quote unquote the healthy one, the supposed green flag. None of it fits this version of Jin, unfortunately. When the trailer for Top Form dropped, for anyone who saw my review on that, I asked a question many fans of the Kaichi were already wondering. Are they going to keep Azumaya Junta, the charming, slightly unhinged, borderline criminal love interest, intact? Or are they going to clean him up, file down all the sharp edges, and give us a more palatable version of a character who's supposed to walk the line between unsettling and magnetic? Like borderline criminal sexual offender, this is not a show about healthy dynamics. Junta isn't a good person. He treats Takato as a prey, someone to trap, manipulate, and possess. He flirts with coercion, blurs consent, and he knows it, which makes him oddly self aware in his toxicity. But that's what makes him so fascinating. He's not a role model. No one's saying that. I hope no one's claiming that this great person. He's a character you can't quite look away from though, because he's so audacious in how openly possessive he is. His charm is his danger. The story walks a razor thin line between erotic tension and emotional manipulation. Every scene is a power play, and the show knows that. So let's discuss the original work. The manga and the anime it's based on the Kaichi. The original title of the manga is just too long. It doesn't have a particularly complex storyline. Two actors fall in love. That's it. It's hardly revolutionary, but what made it compelling was the sharp, messy, almost toxic dynamic between the two leads, bordering on abusive. Junta, the up and coming actor with an unhinged obsession, and Takato, the jaded veteran used to being number one, their relationship thrives on tension and power imbalance. It's a psychological push and pull that feels like something, even when nothing is technically happening. Junta's main goal in life is to crawl inside Takato's skin and live there. Think My Personal Weatherman. Another story where the entire plot is just miscommunication and the insane master servant power dynamic that the two leads have. It works because the dynamic is unique. The relationship itself is the plot. Top form strips that tension away. It blunts Junta's sharp edges and gives us Jin and Akin, softer and honestly kinda boring. The problem is once you remove the thing that gave the original story its bite, you need to replace it with something else, preferably an actual plot. But Top Form doesn't. It keeps the actors in love premise but without the psychological tension. Two actors falling in love without any unique angle or character hook is just not very compelling. By removing the dynamic that carried the original, which is the obsession, the jealousy, and the manipulation, Top Form needed to offer a stronger narrative structure, but it didn't. This isn't a Jin problem. I don't have any issues with them cleaning up Jin. It's just a storytelling issue. Since Jin's character changed on episode 1 from the nonchalant guy to with no drive and no dreams, you now have to provide a different kind of character arc for him. Jin basically stayed the same from somewhere in episode 2 until almost at the very end of the series. And since there's nothing else selling his character other than his dedication to Akin, it's not enough to hold the story together for an 11 episode series. Top form isn't Dakaichi and Jin isn't Junta. And if you want to tell a different story, you have to write a different script. So for episode 7, in the original, humiliation, jealousy, and power play are baked into Junta and Takato's dynamic. It's messy and toxic, sure, but at least it's consistent. So when Junta lashes out and accuses Takato of quote unquote letting himself be fooled by Chihiro, it works because we know that's how Junta processes a threat. It's in character, even when it's ugly. No one's saying that it's right. But Jin isn't supposed to be that guy. Jin is supposed to be the emotionally stable, communicative, and mature guy. And yet, when he finds out that Johnny, who practically forced himself on Akin, crossed a major boundary, Jin's response is to go to Akin and act like Akin needs to be forgiven. Like it's okay now because it didn't escalate to a full blown assault. The implication is horrifying that it only matters if something technically happened and not that Akin was clearly hurt and vulnerable. It's not just out of character. It's bad storytelling. It reduces the weight of what happened and centers the wrong emotional response. The entire scene could have worked if Jin had gone after Johnny or if the show had used the moment to reinforce Jin's supposed protectiveness. But instead, we have this disjointed resolution where Jin is there to offer shallow comfort and move the plot forward. I'm confused. That confrontation between Jin and Johnny at the bar is supposed to be Jin threatening Johnny to stay away from Akin, but there's not an inch of threatening in Jin's stance that it came short of what the narrative was going for. When you take a character like Junta, messy, possessive, and emotionally volatile, and replace him with someone who's supposed to be safe and nurturing, you need to rework the conflict structure. You can't slap the same scenes on a totally different personality and expect the stakes to remain the same. And about episode 8, just to touch on it very briefly on the toxic fan dynamic, I'm on the fence on that one on how they dealt with that. On one hand, you don't want to encourage that kind of behavior, but on the other hand, the BL industry is thriving by basically encouraging those kind of parasocial connections. So I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. So overall, there's just a complete lack of overarching storyline. By the time we reach the last two episodes, I think they have lost the momentum, and the final plot is so disconnected from the earlier episodes for me to care enough. No setup that makes the supposed emotional climax actually feel like a climax, which is the death of Akin's grandmother. Even though she was mentioned in certain parts of the show early on, I don't have enough emotional exposure to her to care enough about her death or her work. It's as if the show assumed that just placing the characters in emotionally tense situations would be enough to get us invested. But you can't skip the groundwork. You have to build the tension and lay down the work and to develop the conflict and earn the resolution. There's not enough in Akin's storyline so far to make me want to root for him to get this final show on the road in the memory of his grandmother. There's no build up to this plotline. No emotional architecture to hold up the drama they suddenly throw at us. I watched the final confrontation scene with the head of Sigma and just felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no catharsis, because the show didn't give me enough reason to care. I don't need a complicated plot. I knew this wasn't going to be that kind of show, but I do need a reason to be emotionally invested, whether that's through a strong character arc or even just consistent emotional tone. I'm not asking for every adaptation to romanticize toxic behavior, even though I love them. That's not the point I'm making. What I'm asking is for the storytelling that recognizes the complexity of those dynamics and find ways to make them compelling. If you're going to clean up a character like Junta, then you need to do the work to build a new version of him who's still interesting, still layered, and still flawed, and still able to generate tension. For me, honestly, this is the Akin's show all throughout. Boom just dominated every scene he was in. I love what they did to his character. There are still hints of the sassiness I came to expect from Takato, but he's more present in his story than Takato ever was. Because Takato was so dominated by Junta in a lot of aspect in the original material, and that's fine because that's their dynamic. But Akin's version is great for what it is. I just wish there was more plot wise for me to care more about what happened to him and Jin. Another thing that they missed is showing how Junta did not care at all about his work. His acting career is just a way to get close to Takato. Junta doesn't care about fame or the craft of acting. He's not a career driven professional. That's the character, that's the intensity, and that's what made him compelling in a deranged, toxic kind of way. The way he makes Takato the center of his entire world. It's possessive, it's not healthy. In top form, Jane has none of that energy. He doesn't project the kind of emotional strength or devotion that would make his role as Akin's protector believable. There's just not enough conviction there to make me believe that he will burn the world down for Akin. And then we have Takato who will give up his career because he believes Junta's talent is greater than his and that Junta's acting is superior. Another beef that I have is the photographer. I love the photographer in the source material. He just fell into this gossip shtick because real photography does not sell. He's depicted as so hateful in the series when he's just trying to make a living, and he actually thinks that Takato and Junta, especially Junta, are formidable forces because of their devotion to each other. Takato and Junta inspired him to quit being a paparazzi and go back to artistic photography. I'm kind of bummed that they made him into a villain. Anyways, overall, it's the chemistry of Smart and Boom that carried the show. I would love to see them in an original material, but that's enough yapping. Tell me what you think. Did you watch Top Form? Did you like it? Comment down below and drink your water, stay hydrated. Bye bye.